Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about The Expanse, Season 4, Episode 8. It's called The One-Eyed Man. So, full spoilers for the episode, as always. Do you know, I saw this title, at some point when I was just getting, one of the other titles earlier in the season and wondered, why is it called The One-Eyed Man? Are we getting a One-Eyed Man? It was making me think of the One-Armed Man from Twin Peaks.
I get that.
And I actually kind of like where the title comes from. And this is just a little remark by Murtry about how in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is the king.
Yeah.
Which of course refers to Holden in this case, because Holden is the only person now inside the structure that can see. Everyone else is kind of really vulnerable feeling, because not only are they blind, but there's these slugs that are deadly as soon as they touch your skin. And Holden's finding more and more dead bodies, and Amos is really cracking under pressure.
Surprisingly, actually.
Yeah, well, it's kind of interesting. He tells this story about how he used to live in a basement when he was a kid, and how he'd have these nightmares and he'd open his eyes and it'd still be dark. And it actually kind of... I really liked his reaction last episode when he found out he was going to go blind. Like, he seemed genuinely terrified by the thought. So it was actually just... It was nice to get another layer to that in this episode when he brought that up. But between his outburst when he almost punched Holden, because Holden kind of jokes later on that he says, well, at least now I can say I took you in a fight. And Amos kind of smirks and says, but I genuinely thought it was a sweet moment when Holden kind of held him and said, I can't lose you. It was a very kind of like, our main crew have really bonded over the course of the 4 seasons.
Yeah, because Amos is off for the slugs.
Yeah, he's on a one-man blind wrecking crew. Despite the fact that he could be killed instantly if one of them actually touches him.
He really doesn't want to give up that flamethrower.
No. So, I really enjoyed that stuff with Amos, and Murtry kind of having to just accept whatever Holden says is like kind of, in charge. He's in charge because by default, he's the only one who can see anything, so he has to kind of follow his lead.
It's kind of weird, but it was so refreshing to get Murtry just being a dickbag again right at the end. Yes, back to normal.
Yes, because of course, Akeya and Holden eventually figure out why he's immune, and it had nothing to do with Miller or any of that stuff. And
it's kind of where we kind of went into after that, where we said, well, maybe there's something wrong with his eyes, because I remember speculating that.
Yeah, which in a way is. It's not so much that. It's not. I mean, it is kind of. It's not like he's got a natural defect with his eyes. It's because of the radiation that he suffered from Eros. He takes meds for cancerous cells, and it's those meds that are killing this bacteria, and it's what's keeping him okay. And it's like, can we produce more of that? And she's like, yeah, I think so. I need to double check exactly what you're taking, but other than that, probably
doesn't seem like a big deal, right?
Yeah, so they do that, and by the end, they've started de-blinding people, as it were.
De-blinding, is that what we're going with?
De-blinding. Well, unblinding.
Restoring sight is usually the phrase that is used.
Whatever. De-blinding, I think, sounds perfectly fine. Perfectly fine.
It doesn't, but whatever.
So when Holden escapes onto the surface at the end, it's like there's a new beach just there, because the water's started, it's going out, but it's coming in like a shore. It
still looks like there's an ocean there.
Yeah, but clearly it's going. They'll maybe have a little bit of time, and they've got a little camp at the edge here, and then over time they'll be able to
get back.
Yeah, sort of go further inland, as it were. Well, you know what I mean? They're technically inland, but same difference.
No one's going to want to dare swim in case there's any more slugs in there, or worse.
I thought there was a few great little speeches in this episode, for various reasons. There was the one with Holden and Amos, which I thought was really good, but there was also one from Avasarala that did get some murkiness to it by the end of the episode, but did have, because this is the thing, her husband accuses her of telling lies. It's a great speech she gives at this memorial for the fallen Marines from the end of the last episode, and she sort of stops reading the auto cue and just says, you know what, no, look, I'm going to be honest, my son was killed, he was a Marine, and she goes on this great little speech about how nothing she's going to say is going to mean anything to anyone, you need someone to hate, so hate me, because it was ultimately my fault. And it's this very genuine speech that, comes across, it's acted really well, it's written really well, all of it's great. And later on, there's this murkiness added to it where she's also leaked footage of New Terra to sort of gain political. And her husband says everything you said was a lie. And I actually kind of like gave him a funny look when he said that, because I'm like, you know what? No, she's in the wrong here. She is using it for political gain. I'm not convinced that what she said was actually a lie, though. But immediately she says that. She says, no, look, what I said was not a lie. I was speaking the truth. But then he obviously fires back with, you used our son to, gain political points.
It's not that it was a lie. It was that it was not coming from a genuine place, I think is the distinction here. While it may have been, maybe everything she said was true in some way or another, but it's more about the reason she said it was still like this calculated decision, rather that this will play better than whatever this speech says, rather than actually coming from a place of honesty and feeling like a spur of the moment thing.
Yeah, well, I actually think it is spur of the moment. I just think it's
no, okay.
Yeah,
the idea to do it is spur of the moment.
Yeah,
but I think
she genuinely,
the motivation is disingenuous.
She genuinely got the idea while she was giving the speech to do this. But you're right. It was clearly has this extra political motivation added to it that makes it kind of dirty. And because for a moment there, you're really rooting for her, and even Gao in the crowd, and even afterwards, she's asked by the press, like, "What do you think of what Avasarala said?" And it's like, look, that proves that she's got some integrity, and she's saying nice things about her. And then the footage leaking kind of comes up, and it's almost like she almost knows immediately that Avasarala did it. But this is, I think
everyone does immediately. It's like, right, okay.
This is designed to change the narrative on Newterra.
This is standard, election cycle, work from the PR department of whoever.
And it's because Avasarala has always been a character that we've been thoroughly behind, as in terms of what she's doing, in terms of doing the right thing. And this season is really playing with the idea that she has her faults, and we can't necessarily always trust that she has.
It's starting to get to a point of, okay, at what point do the ends stop justifying the means here?
Yeah, to the point where maybe her position going forward won't be the general secretary. It might actually be a new position that we follow her in future seasons, because she might not be the best fit for this job anymore.
I think what would be really interesting is if she does win and she isn't the best fit. This idea of then we actually watch her struggle and maybe make wrong decisions because of it, and maybe she should have lost the election. That could be an interesting way of playing it.
Arguably, she already did make a wrong decision. That's why the military guy resigns.
Yeah, that's true. I think that's slightly different in the sense that was a very election-based decision. It was all political as to what'll play well with the voters. I think, I mean, a bad decision when she just makes the wrong call for the right reasons, as opposed to this.
Yeah, that's possible. So we're really seeing how she's changed, having had power. It's almost like an interesting exploration of, like, she was such a noble character when she was taking out the ones in charge who were corrupt, and she was always in the right for the most part when she was doing that, and we always were. Whereas now that she is in that position of power, it's almost like it is corrupting her. Maybe not to the extent of the the people before her, because they were like really corrupt. They were doing all these backdoor shady deals for their own personal gain and all that. But the fact that it's even affected her this much, where she seems to be making choices based on her own success now, as opposed to what's best for the country.
Power corrupts, and we always want to naturally root for the underdog.
So I guess making us as the audience ask some tough questions about, is she in the right here, and should we be rooting for her to win this? Should she take a back seat, and maybe she is better as a second in command? Maybe she's better at ensuring the person in charge is playing by the book than she is actually doing it herself, because even she's not someone who can be completely trusted in that sense. So that stuff was pretty solid. And then we also had stuff with Bobby on Mars, which again was very intriguing. I think my favorite part of this is, again, they get this job. It's going to pay 10 times more than the last one that we saw from the terraforming station. And Bobby has some questions. We don't know what this is. Is this weapons? What are we moving? Like, she's concerned about the morality of it. And obviously the others are like, screw you. You're like, we can split this 3 ways, yada, yada, yada. And she goes to see the cop at his home, and we see that he's got a wife and kids, and sort of gives him a bit of humanity and whatnot. And but ultimately,
it was in this scene as well that I keep forgetting how tall Bobby is. The actor, and then she stands in a scene like this, and she's towering over everyone.
Yeah, what I liked about this, though, my favorite thing in this plotline, this episode, was that one of the reasons why, like, this kind of like the breakdown of the belief in Mars is happening. Something that I don't think we really talked about, or at least, or maybe we thought about it but didn't talk about it, is the idea that now that they've found more planets that are inhabitable, is it really worth the effort that terraforming? Because
I'm pretty sure we did speak about this.
Did we? Well, it definitely came to the surface more this episode, because this idea that, okay, all this effort and time, and this idea it's going to take 100 years to, not even 100 in total, just 100 years from now, because he says it's going to be another 100 years from right now to finish terraforming Mars, right? And this idea that, well, there's new planets out there that are habitable now, so why bother? Why don't we just go there and just get a head start, because we can. And that's something that he believes in. He wants to leave. He's like, no, I served Mars. I was a loyal Martian for most of my life, and then this happened, and it's like, well, clearly everyone's going to abandon Mars now. Like,
yeah, I think we've definitely talked about this, because we talked about how it's kind of the death of Martian culture, right?
Yeah. No, we probably did. You're right, but I really liked Bobby being confronted with this and really being kind of like put through the paces herself, with like everything she fought for is just immediately been rendered redundant because there's now new planets to go to. Because think about it, like beforehand, Mars was the only planet in the solar system they could terraform. It was the only place that could be turned into a planet that was habitable. Because you can't go to Venus or Mercury because they're too close to the sun, right? And obviously past Mars you've got gas giants. They're not very useful. Obviously they've set up shop in asteroids and moons and stuff, and they've and that's what the belt has become, but they can never be habitable in the same way that a planet that's been terraformed can be. So
yeah, the idea of terraforming is you can go outside.
Yeah, exactly. Eventually.
Well, no, once it's done though, right? That's the whole point. You can go outside and walk around and have fresh air. Can't really do that in the belt.
No. So there's basically this new possibility that's open, and it makes the effort of Mars just seem like, what's the point? And clearly there's Martians that are realizing this, and that this loyalty to Mars might be breaking down, and we're seeing at least a few examples. We're seeing Bobby question it at the very least. Obviously the cop is already there, like he's already ready to jump ship. And which is interesting, because at that point he essentially becomes a belter, right? I mean, not in spirit, but like in the sense that he's going out to the new world and he's not really a Martian anymore. I mean, he comes from Mars, but he's not,
Yeah, no, I can very much see this end up with a new fourth culture out of them. Like the new settlers of whatever planet they choose.
The ex-Martians, yeah, like whatever they.
Not even just Martians, because it'll be like, let's say they come to the planet we're on right now. Let's just assume this is the planet that is first settled. You'll have people from Earth you've already there. We've got belters already there. We'll have some Martians come along, and over time they'll become their own culture, right? They won't be any of those individual groups anymore.
Alternatively, they could settle on a different planet, and we'll end up with a planet that's all ex-Martians, but they'll be separate from Mars. We'll have a planet that's all ex-Belters, but they're not really the belt anymore, and like so on and so forth. We could almost get
So it's kind of this extension of how Mars and the belt are offshoots of Earth. They're going to have that going back far enough that they all came from Earth and went out to these places. Whereas this will go, from Mars to other places. And you'll have this offshoot again and see how different they get.
Yeah, we all came from this solar system, but ultimately everyone's going to splinter again, and new societies will be created. No, it's really interesting stuff. So I loved all that stuff. Obviously, Bobby's boyfriend as well got a new job. He's leaving for Europa, and she pretends not to be bothered by it until he's actually got the job, and it's like, you're going to run away and go. Notably though, he did leave the waffles with all the toppings, so Bobby can wire into them.
That was a smart move.
that'll calm her down.
Taking those would have been bad for his health.
I'm taking my waffles with me.
Talk about kicking someone while they're down. That is a real dick move.
And he does offer it, hey, I want you to come with me. He says, hey, let's make this a thing. And he acknowledges that she must have some sort of sketchy job because you've got this new hotel room that you're using, and you've got, suddenly you're very lush.
And it's like, I get it. You got to do what you got to do when you haven't got a job in this scenario, because no one's got a job.
Mm-hmm.
But he's offering her an option.
Yeah. So, no, I mean, like, Really solid stuff. Actually, I just want to go back before we go into the OPA stuff. I want to go back to the Holden stuff because I want to talk about a line that I really liked. It's when they figure out the cure. They figure out that what's causing Holden to be immune, and they're like, okay, we can do this. We can make this drug. Yada yada. I love the moment where Holden genuinely smiles, and it's a great smile that he doesn't use a lot, right? And Okoye, who's clearly still blind because she's not taken anything yet, says, it's nice to see you smile again. But obviously she can't actually see him. I loved that line. That was such a good little line where she just knows he's smiling, and she says that. I just writing like that is just, it's got the layers there that make it work, where if the delivery of that line is off, it'll feel stupid, but it's sold in just the right way.
Yeah, because it's a fundamentally very simple line, right?
Yeah, but she sells it in the right way that you know that she's not actually seeing it, and that's what makes it charming. She just knows that he's smiling, but we can see that he's smiling, and it's this big grin that we've not seen him have, and it's a genuine moment. It was a great touch.
Just a question while we're on that kind of area of the episode.
Yeah, sure.
Did you have to look away?
Oh yeah, there's the eye stabbing.
Yeah.
I looked away briefly, but I did see most of it.
Oh no, my eyes were covered.
It was sort of thing where I looked away and then looked back. I was like, oh, I have to look a little bit.
I had my eyes covered and I just a little peeking through. I can't look away entirely, but I don't want to look at it.
I mean, I don't like eye stab. I have no problem with syringes. I don't like eyes being stabbed. That's my problem here.
I really hate syringes, and eyes being stabbed is uncomfortable, but I can watch in a horror movie being stabbed with a fork or something like that. I can do. This was just too far.
Yep.
Way too far.
So that's cool. But that was a fun scene. I want to give them credit for essentially having 2 episodes where they're stuck in a cave essentially, and it's been kind of riveting the entire time. I've never felt like, oh, we're still stuck in the cave and nothing. Like I felt how desperate they are this episode as he's peeling up bodies, and they're all scared of because they get to a point where they have a system where if you hear someone wander off who might end up getting killed, yell for me because Holden's the only one who can go and find people. It felt so desperate, and I loved that.
Yeah, man, they're lucky he was there.
Oh, very lucky. They're lucky that he might get cancer. That's what it boils down to.
I mean, I think he's already got cancer because he's got the cancerous cells already. The
Sure.
meds are fine.
Sure, okay, sure. They've got the meds in the future are good enough that he's not actually,
dying from.
Yeah. So
I think though, to be fair, that's kind of what Naomi says, right? Oh, thank God something good came out of Eros.
Yeah. No, it's a nice little touch. And of course, actually, before we got to the other plot lines we're not touched yet, we should probably mention the ending.
I thought you were saving that when you jumped around.
No,
I just get to it.
I was kind of just dancing around, but yeah, we'll talk about the ending because Miller shows up again, and Holden's like, where the hell have you been, kind of thing, and Miller glitches out because at first he's got the hat on, he glitches and the hat's not there, and then he's almost like suave under coat on, and then he's got
he's trying to talk but he's clearly on mute.
Yeah, it's actually a really creepy almost techno horror moment because it's actually quite scary when he's trying to scream at him and you don't hear anything.
It's really funny that you mentioned Twin Peaks earlier because it's kind of Twin Peaks in many ways.
Oh, I can see it. No, it was a really good moment, and very intriguing as to what's wrong with this AI or whatever you want to call it, this being.
What is wrong with it? Why is it? It's terrified, in pain.
Is it because something with this planet turning on, something's went wrong, something's went haywire? Was it not meant to blow up an island?
Did it? I don't know. I'm wondering maybe. Let's say it turned everything back on. It connected to the mainframe, so to speak.
And something's not right there. Yeah, it's
What did it learn? Was there some sort of virus?
Yeah, very very intriguing, but.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's not much to speculate on beyond that right now, but I'm intrigued.
But it was a very interesting end.
Yeah. So before we get to the PX, we'll go up to the orbit because they're building the tether, and
yes.
Not much to say here really, other than they build the tether and they attach the tether and it's working.
There's some tension, whether or not it'll work. And...
Yeah, because they explain that if it's tightened too quickly, it'll snap, and that'll just
Good job, Alex. A good pilot.
Yeah, good job indeed. He knows how to pace it just right. Yeah. But yeah, so there's some good stuff with the the slow like thruster of the little drone taking it one end to the other. It
looks great. Music's fantastic during this sequence.
Yeah. Just kind of comes in at the start and the end and does what it needs to do.
Final point before we do move on to the.
Oh yes.
As everyone's being cured from the blindness, things are getting back to normal. Murtry, I hinted earlier, he gets back to being his usual dickbag self.
Oh yeah, he's basically just checking that order that he put in a couple of episodes ago for the shuttle to be rigged with explosives.
Yep, it's like just make sure that's still going. So he's still got his plans. Back to normal. Like I said, it was kind of refreshing just to get back to. Oh yeah, he's still a shithead.
Yeah, so Fred Johnson shows up. We see him on the screen actually at the start with a Vasarala when she's being briefed on like the perception of what happened, because there was video footage aboard the ship from the Belters, the innocent civilian Belters who were killed in the attack, and Fred Johnson does show up in person to see Drummer and Ashford. And Drummer immediately punches him in the face, and Ashford's just like, I thought you were going to keep your temper. Keep your temper in check.
Great.
No, they are great. I really like them as a duo. And Drummer quits because she's not happy that Fred leaked this footage to make sure that not even just leaked the footage. He leaked the info that Marco was on that ship, and it's led to these deaths. And Fred sees this as a good political move because it's keeping kind of the UN in line with them in terms of the peace treaty.
He's not necessarily wrong,
but she just sees no. You basically got these Belters killed. And we're killing innocent people to justify the political ends, and she's not happy with this, so she quits. She's like, "No, I'm not doing this anymore." So that was pretty cool. Ashford was offered the job, but he actually says, "Nope, my mission right now is to go get Marco. I'm going to get him." And
so these two are off on a manhunt.
Yeah, well, they're not because Drummer turns him down. So it looks like she's going to accept. Yeah. She brings him the booze, and he's like, "No, you keep this then. If you're not coming with me, you keep this until I've done the mission." And
yeah. But I assume she'll be helping still. Maybe not like physically with him. But...
Yeah, part of me still expect her to go back to Fred at the end and say, "Hey, you know what? I'm keeping my job because I don't trust you to like do this properly," or something like that.
Could be.
So she could still help from this point of view. Where she goes now, if she isn't staying on this ship, I'm not sure. But
yeah, I think I'm expecting her still to help Ashford, maybe not as directly, being physically with him, but doing the intel and getting the information and feeding that to him, keeping trying to keep track of Marco, these sorts of things.
Yeah, because part of me really wanted to see them two go off in their ship together and like hunt Marco.
Yeah. I'm expecting more her to do maybe lean into like the spycraft angle a little bit to try and get him, because it kind of feels like a lot of that's kind of where she's going, and is kind of black ops spycraft in that. She's been in that kind of not quite leadership role, but kind of up there, understanding the top decisions. But kind of, she's been very aware of calls that need to be made for political reasons, and then there's the things that she just should be doing. So I can see it going that way.
Yeah, because the other big thing here is that Ashford's really concerned about is that what Fred has done has made Marco look more like a hero to people who are very anti, the inners, anti-inners. He's actually made it worse. And even the speech that he did on TV has made it even worse. Like, he's making Marco turn out to be this war hero that a lot of the Belters are getting behind. So Ashford's like, no, we have to put him down as quickly as possible before he converts more people, before he inspires more people. And I thought it was interesting that Ashford, like, he clearly he still has a bit of that anger in him, because he's like, yeah, I'm going to put him in the airlock and enjoy it, but he has like a sort of learned old man who's kind of like realized that a lot of his extreme ideas from his youth seem to, those aren't the way forward. Like the way we go forward, if we actually want to improve things, is peace. Like constant wars, just not what he wants. And Drummer points out that, hey, you have changed a lot. You are. I
remember back at this guy's introduction, and it was like, holy shit, this guy's serious.
So, yeah, I've come to... Do you know what's funny? Ashford was introduced in the back half of season 3, and like relatively quite quickly, he's become like such a great character on this show, and I'm pleased for that. I'm pleased that if we can't get Jared Harris, too often, because we've not seen him in a while.
I get it. He's a busy man.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll nab him for because we hadn't seen Fred for a lot of this season. He's just popped in this episode, so. It would surprise me if we do get him for a big moment, maybe next season or something like that. If they,
he'll be working out schedules more than anything.
Yeah, so hopefully that comes to pass. But No, a solid episode. I'm really excited to see what they do in the last two now and see how this all wraps up.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's been real solid. It's been a very consistent season up to this point, actually.
Yeah, and this is meant to be the least liked book. So, I mean, if this is the low point in terms of the source material, then I think we're in pretty good hands. Unless the ending completely shits the bed. And
I mean, it could, but I have no reason to assume why it would at this point, right?
Yeah, I actually really like. I think the one thing that shows this is from a book is that the book wouldn't be concerned with the idea that this story is a lot smaller in scale than some of the previous stuff, right? Whereas we had a lot more space battles and things like that. And I think if you were making a TV show from scratch, you would always keep in mind that you want to have a good quota of all the things that your audience likes, right? But in a book, that doesn't matter as much because it's all in your head anyway, so it doesn't matter if it's intimate versus big and, space epics and whatnot. And I think I like that this season has not tried to artificially do a lot more of that stuff that shouldn't be there. It feels like it's committed to just doing this more internal story that is.
Yeah, have we had a proper space battle? I mean,
not a space battle, no.
We've had like the ships being shot down with the UN stuff. We had them, the battle scaring off that ship.
Yeah. But we've not had like an actual
confrontation combat.
Yeah, and I appreciate how focused the season's been. It's not been trying to.
Yeah, I think it was very early on. We went, well, this is this planet for the season, right?
Yeah.
And I'm impressed that it hasn't felt like we've stretched that out unnaturally or anything. It's felt very kind of consistent in its pacing, its tone. I think there's no like standout amazing episode from this season so far. I don't think. I couldn't point to one and go, that's clearly the best episode of this season. There's just been a really, really consistent baseline, of just, okay, these are all pretty great.
Yeah, so we'll see how it wraps up. But yeah, you can let us know what you thought of episode 8 in the comments below. You can like and subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on the Twitters at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the show and the channel, you can head over to patreon.com/mailfuzztv and support us for as little as $1 per month and get us some bonus content for your troubles. You can also support us by rating the audio podcast on Apple Podcasts or sharing the podcast out, of course, on social media or whatever else you'd like to share it. I don't know. I don't know if the Pornhub forums would want recommendations for an Expanse podcast, but you never know.
To be fair, there are many strange things in Pornhub comments from what I see on Reddit. Every so often there'll be like a Reddit post of, hey, look what I found in the comments section, and it'll be something just so weird that you're like, why is this on here?
For some reason, people watching porn and masturbating puts them in a really jokey mood for some reason. They get really witty.
Apparently, yeah.
But there you go. That is us. Thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys. Have you got any vanilla?